Hi, it's Paul Sakis, Good News Broadcast, and you're watching The Water Hour. Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're always welcome to go to our website, goodnewsbroadcast.com, and see some of the past programs we've done on The Water Hour, as well as thousands of stories on Good News Broadcast. And most important to us, actually, is that you share your content with us on a regular basis. We're happy to put up video, audio, and so on and so forth. And we have now a new YouTube site called youtube.com/Good News Broadcast, and in the upcoming weeks you'll hear about iTunes has asked us to create a channel, Microsoft Zune has asked us to create a channel, as well as Juiced it's called, started by the Skype gentleman, and so we have a lot more outlets for our good news, which is good news because it's all good news, and it's really not about good news. Us being that comment means it's all about you. Whatever you have to share with us is really what's important. And as many of you know, I really don't care how you paint, I don't care how you sing, I don't really, the good news, we don't care, it doesn't matter. As long as you're happy and as long as you're not saying that you're better than this artist and you're better than that artist or blah, 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 you write better, just have fun, enjoy life, and so on and so forth. But back to the Water Hour. Okay, it's happening, actually, it's ending quite soon here. Water, H2O equals life, that's we're at the Museum of Natural History, a great exhibit, and we're hoping within the next week or so the people that are connected to that exhibit, even though it's been on quite a long time, but there's tons of people we're connected with it, because water is such an important subject, as you all know, and there's becoming more and more, I'd say more and more people are becoming involved, and we're going to have some wonderful people on today singing and talking about water and so on. A couple quick things. Well, let me just say one. I'll save some of these in between our different people on today's program. Well, actually, let me mention who's on the program. We have Mike McGee, Dr. Mike McGee, MD, Healthy Waters. He's going to speak about his book. And here it's Water Scarcity is a Crisis Today with Solutions that Cannot Wait Until Tomorrow. Okay, so Mike is going to talk to us. We also have, I don't know how well this is going to come out, but a friend, Carson Tang, is going to talk about some environmental and just travel programs that he's connected to. He's doing a lot of spiritual work as well, and a good guy, and we're happy to have him. And then to close today's show, we have Neil Rosengarden, who's a good friend of our Vice President of Music here, Barry Gruber, and he's going to sing a couple songs for us and tell us a little bit about his musical background. He grew up in the business. So a lot of good things here today, but let's get right to Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Paul, thanks so much for having me here. I'm really thrilled to be on the Good News Broadcast, and especially on the Water Hour.
Okay, and why especially the Water Hour?
Well, you know, as a young boy, I was one of 12 children, and part of the time each year we grew up on a little lake, and so all of my formative years were in and around water. I almost forgot a lot of that until later on in life. I grew up, became a doctor, a surgeon, and I got involved in a variety of different humanistic activities, and was here in the city at the time of 9/11, and shortly thereafter it, I was at the South Street Seaport Museum and saw an exhibit there of the boat captains who had evacuated Manhattan Island for the 24 hours, largest wartime evacuation since Dunkirk. And I had been doing a series of books, and they asked me to do a companion book, which was called All Available Boats, which was the call for all available boats on that day, and chronologue the story not only of the captain's point of view, but also the people who were evacuated that day. Anyway, that led to working with the Coast Guard, who were obviously directing the effort that day, which led to some work with the UN Water Group. And one of the people there, Kirsten Leitner, who was the head of water, said to me at an exhibit, "What do you or any doctors know really about water?" And I had to admit, not much. And so I spent about a year studying up on the UN information on water, and out of that came the Healthy Waters book and the Healthy Waters website. So for the last several years, I've been attempting to get doctors and nurses and other health professionals more involved with water, because water is really about reaching your full human potential, and that's what health is becoming as well. So my goal is to connect the health professional community to the water professional community, and to get us all involved in what I consider to be the absolute most important environmental and global and health issue of our day.
Now, since you're a surgeon, I always wonder how when you in essence, open somebody up, how come a lot of water doesn't like squish out of you? I mean, because we are kind of watery, right? Us human beings?
Well, we're very watery, as a matter of fact. We're about 70% water. And, you know, if we lose a couple of percentages of water content, we get thirsty. If we lose 5%, we get fatigued. If we lose 10%, we're immobile. And if we lose 12%, we're dead. So we're absolutely dependent on water. And but there is much more to the human experience with water than that. We have almost a spiritual draw to water. We literally will seek out water, swim in it. Even if we know it's polluted, we will, on the one hand, use it for sacrificial rites, and on the other hand, defile it. So the human experience with water is a checkered history. Generally, where human beings come in contact with water, bad things happen to water.
Yes. Well, as an MD now, and just to get back a little bit from your, I guess, early involvement here in work and so on, but still the knowledge of, where is the water in our bodies? I never asked this question. Where's the water? Is there water in my hand?
There's water that basically is the transport medium, both inside the cells themselves and inside the vessels and various different tissue spaces. So absent water, nothing would move, and if nothing moves, nothing could be coordinated. I mean, basically, there's a wireless and a wired system that causes the body to communicate. The wired system is, of course, the nervous system, and the wireless system is the endocrine system, those hormones that travel and chemicals throughout the body along vascular networks that are basically waterways.
It's not like electricity, or we get a shock with the, we go in the bathtub, we're in water.
Well, you know, we think of life as magical, but the truth of the matter is that for life to successfully thrive, you must have water. You must have water both in the outside world for the planetary patient, and you must have water inside these boundaries that we call our body.
I had it's not the good news aspect of life. I had a buddy whose son had hydrocephalus.
Right.
And somebody said it's water on the brain. Was that
well,
water?
you know, inside of the brain system, there are channels that communicate with the spinal cord, a water network that moves from the brain and is contiguous. Think of it as sort of the Great Lakes inside of the brain and tributaries that go down the spinal cord. If that fluid flow gets obstructed, these spaces in the brain expand and can actually press on brain tissue and cause brain damage. So hydrocephalus is when those water networks inside of the brain expand, and it's a threat to your actual brain tissue.
Now, you did say we could go swimming, maybe some not clean water. And what makes water clean? What is that? I'm asking you like one-on-one questions here, or maybe, but what then would make water that's clean is drinkable water? I mean, if we drank bad water, then you could die.
Water left to its own devices, if we didn't interfere in one way, shape, or form, is generally clean. In the developing world, you know, we have surface waters, those waters that we see, collections of waters in our streams and in our lakes and in our reservoirs. And in the developing world, those waterways not only are a source of liquid for water nourishment, but they're also a source of transportation, commerce, and removal of waste. 90% of the human waste in the developing world is discharged directly into their surface waters, and 70% of the industrial waste. people tend to congregate along waterways because they need water to survive and they need water to transport themselves and different materials. But if they defile the water and dump materials into the water becomes bad. As a result of ruining our surface water in many places around the world, we now depend on water that's underground, groundwater. We drill down into it, it tends to be pure, unless things run through the ground down into the groundwater. So we have a very complex history with water. We've urbanized, our populations have grown, we've tended to settle along waterways, and where we have settled along waterways, we've tended to use water as an unlimited resource and not worry too much when things go bad with it. Now we're at a point with over 6 billion people in the world where we have to really be concerned about water pollution and water scarcity, because in many places around the world, we're running out of clean water.
I had heard, someone even had said to me about 3% of all the water, because we have these globes here and it's very blue, right? Because that's all water, is fresh drinking water. 3% of all the water.
Well, that's the amazing thing. If you look at any of these globes, and if you were looking from outer space at our planet, you would say, if anything wouldn't be scarce, it would have to be water. But the truth of the matter is that 97% of the water on Earth is salt water and is not usable, in fact, poisonous to us if we were to try to drink it. The remaining 3% is not all available to us all. Even though it's fresh, over 2% is tied up in glaciers and is inaccessible to us. Less than 1% of all of the water on Earth is actually usable by us, and that's if it were clean and pure, but it's not. Much of that 1% is not clean or pure. In fact, of the 6 billion citizens in our global planet, about 1.6 billion of them do not have access to clean water.
That's why the show is here, actually.
That's right. And so we have to now begin to figure out, how do we protect the water, how do we preserve it, and how do we get it to the people who need it the most? The UN says that we could take care of all of the deficiencies in both sanitation and clean water. We could build the infrastructure worldwide for about $10 billion a year, which is almost exactly what Americans spend today on bottled water. So if we were to take those resources and redirect them to infrastructure around the world, we could basically make available to the entire world's population clean water and effective sanitation.
You know, one of the highlights of my whole career actually recently occurred when I went over to UNICEF and their tap water project and some of their water initiatives and so on and so forth, some relationship with the United Nations as well. And to hear that they were busy bees, if not the largest, helping for children to get fresh drinking water. This comment that you're saying to me now is another concerning, happy comment and concerning comment. Why can't we get our act together to go and do it?
Well, Don Elder, who runs Rivers Network, he's been at this, he's a water professional that's been at this for 3 decades. And he was in New York City last week, and it really made me feel better because he's very optimistic about at least what we're going to be able to do in the near future in the U.S. He says the problems that we have are both a problem of habits and a problem of deficient technology. Habits in the sense that in the U.S. today, if you're a Los Angelean, you're using literally 500 liters of water a day, whereas a Maasai warrior subsists on less than 5 liters. So we're using 100 times more, some of our citizens are. But Don says that increasingly Americans are beginning to realize that there are many easy things they can do both inside their homes and outside their homes to preserve water. Plus, he says the new technologies, the air flushing toilets and the small flush, large flush toilets, and modifying our water heaters, which are the 3rd most energy intense appliance in our house, and beginning to think about using gray water, that is reusing water when we don't need pure water to water our lawns or to flush our toilets. All of these possibilities are beginning to come online in America, and people are beginning to realize in America that to solve the energy problem, to get free of Middle East oil, maybe the quickest way is to use water properly, because pumping water is energy intensive, heating water is energy intensive, and we are so wasteful with water in the U.S. that if we were better at using water, we might also be able to conserve a lot of the energy that we're wasting.
Mike, obviously you have a tremendous amount of knowledge. Thank you for semi-switching to, even though your book says to the water world, what every health professional should know about water. Well, let me ask, so if all right, I'm a doctor, what would you tell me?
Well, I think for the people and the people taking care of the people, the notion of health today isn't about beating off disease, it's about reaching your full human potential. It is impossible to reach our full human potential unless we have a healthy environment. So I think what you're going to find is that the people taking care of the people increasingly will have to become social leaders in their community and consider not simply whether or not someone has a disease and whether to send them to the hospital or the emergency room, but also whether they are in good spiritual health, good physical health, good financial health, and good environmental health. And so what we're trying to do with the Healthy Waters movement is to begin to prepare doctors and nurses to be the type of broad leaders that doctors and nurses used to be before science and technology dominated our training and our existence.
Okay, the book is called Healthy Waters. Dr. Mike McGee, what every health professional should know about water. Included in here is the water crisis, I guess, integrated water cycles, water and health, agriculture, industry, energy, cities, water disasters. Boy, we just had that big cyclone.
That's right, and that's a big problem because global warming, energy use, and water misuse tied together with people populating right next to water without an ability to evacuate them means disaster. It doesn't matter whether it's New Orleans or whether it's a tsunami or the cyclone. Bad policy is bad policy. So we need to better understand how to manage water well, and one of the resources that we offer is on our website, www.healthy-waters.org. You can find a tremendous amount of information about what you can do in your community and also in your home to begin to help out right now.
Well, and then Chapter 9, my lucky number, says pricing and sharing water.
A complex issue. If we underprice water, what happens is people don't worry about wasting it. If we overprice it, then we undermine a human right. You need water to survive, and obviously we need to be able to have water available for all people, independent of their socioeconomic status. But by making it appear, as we do in the U.S., as an unlimited resource, by undervaluing it, what happens is people don't mind watering their lawns all day and misusing this very valuable resource.
Yeah, we have a bunch of songs on here called Water is for Sharing,
That's
and
right.
so on and so forth.
That's right.
All right, well, it's all good. Thank you. Congratulations. And Jacques Cousteau said, "We forget that the water cycle and the life cycle are one." That's a quote out of your book.
One and the same, Paul. And I think the good news is that people like yourself are really committed to not only educating the general public, but bringing them together. I think we can rise to the occasion here, and I do think we're making progress, but now we've got to do it in a much more deliberate way. One of the things that I'll be doing starting in the fall is with the people that did Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, I'll be touring Drops of Life, which is the companion piece on water to his global warming piece. So hopefully that'll help a little bit as well.
Okay, companion piece in what sense?
In the sense that it's a big screen presentation that I'll be taking around to universities. It's called Drops of Life. And I think when people see this presentation, they'll not only be entertained, but hopefully motivated to get on top of this issue. Water is at least as important as a global warming issue, and in many ways, they're one and the same issue.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, let's go to commercial. Very good. Thank you.